When did feelings become an excuse? And how do we lose our plot in life? When did society start this whole ideal that talking about your feelings is the most important thing in the room? Because somewhere along the line, that turned into people using feelings as a reason to get out of things, avoid things, or shut down conversations entirely. Hurt feelings become this main discussion point in society. Accountability takes a back seat. Discomfort started getting treated like harm. The short answer, this is very recent in human history, and it didn't start as an excuse. It got turned into one. Let me explain that without any sugarcoating. There was a historical shift. For the most part of human history, feelings were morally just irrelevant. Pre modern societies cared about duty, survival, honor, obedience, fulfillment, and communal stability. If you were upset, well, that was just unfortunate. But it didn't exempt you from work, parenting, farming, worship, or defending your community. Life was hard. Everyone knew it. Emotional distress wasn't a veto. The shift started in the late 1800s and the early 1900s with the rise of this modern ideal of psychology. Freud reframed distress as something that could be interpreted instead of endured. And this was a big deal. It was what planted this ideal of inner experience mattering. Now, then, some point in the mid 20th century, you get the ideal of humanistic psychology. And this is one of the things that I really do enjoy as a professional. Carl Rogers, Maslow, empathy, validation, self actualization, these were all therapeutic names and tools, and everything was meant for this consulting room. They were designed to help people who were already suffering or psychologically stuck. They were never meant to run society. Then, in the 1960s and the 1970s hit, authority becomes suspect. Structure becomes oppressive. Authority and authenticity becomes sacred. Feelings stop being signals and start becoming arguments. The final mutation of this hurt feelings thing started in the 1990s and lasted through the early 2010s, teens, wherever, when therapeutic language leaked out of therapy and into schools, HR departments, legal frameworks, and even social media. It became a discussion everywhere. Now, feelings aren't just something you experience. They're not something that helps you explain or motivate yourself. They're something you can deploy. I feel unsafe. This harms my mental health. This makes me uncomfortable. Those statements can now function as a conversation ender, responsibility eraser, or a power move. That's not therapy. That's emotional weaponization. And there's a core distinction here. Um, Feelings are real, and this is something that people miss. They're not always relevant, they're not always authoritative, and they're not always a reason to stop doing hard things. Modern culture collapsed the line between acknowledging feelings and obeying them. That collapse is what people are reacting to, whether they have language for it or not. Discomfort got relabeled as a danger. Accountability got reframed as cruelty. Endurance got pathologized. That's not emotional health. That's emotional absolutism. For everyday mental health and everyday mental health practitioners, if you want to actually improve your own mental health, well, here's the hard truth. Your feelings are information, not instructions, and certainly not instructions for other people. They tell you something about your internal state. They do not automatically tell you what to do next. Emotional maturity is the ability to say, well, this feels bad, and I'm still going to act in alignment with my values. Healthy emotional literacy asks different questions than social media does. Not, how do I get rid of this feeling? But, what is this feeling asking me to notice, and what still needs to be done anyway? Avoidance feels good in the short term. It destroys confidence in the long term. Every time you let discomfort run your life, you teach your nervous system that you are fragile. Every time you move forward while uncomfortable, you teach it that you're capable. That's how resilience is built, not by comfort, but by meaning plus action. For the mental health practitioners, clinicians, this is where the profession has to be honest with itself. Validation without direction is not treatment. Empathy without accountability is not healing. Sitting with feelings is important, but stopping there turns therapy into emotional babysitting. We don't want to just stop there with people's emotions. We can sit with them and help them process them, but we don't want to be emotionally babysitting others. Our job is not to help clients avoid discomfort. It is hard and it needs to be hard. Our job is to help them tolerate it without self destructing. Once they get that comfortably uncomfortable level, then we can move forward with functional living. Feelings should be explored, named, regulated, and contextualized. They should not automatically dictate goals, boundaries, or expectations. Therapy is supposed to increase capacity, not shrink the world until nothing's triggering. When we accidentally reinforce emotional absolutism, we don't empower clients. We teach them that distress equals incapacity. That's a dangerous lesson. I also work with substance use treatment, and this matters even more in substance use treatment because addiction already trains people to obey these feelings. I feel anxious, so I use. I feel bored, so I use. I feel overwhelmed, so I escape. Recovery requires a completely different relationship with emotion. In this arena, feelings are expected. They're not emergencies. They're not reasons to relapse, skip accountability, or abandon structure. In recovery, discomfort is not a failure signal. It's a sign that the nervous system is recalibrating. I spend a lot of time helping my clients understand this. Your brain will reset. You will get better at recovery. Teaching clients that they must feel okay before they act is one of the fastest ways to sabotage their sobriety. They are going to feel bad and they're going to have to get used to feeling bad. And that bad feeling might last them a very long time. It's our job to help them process it, cope with it, and strategize through it, support their recovery. Substance use treatment works when people learn this truth. I can feel awful and still do the next right thing. That's not cruelty, that's survival. And it's our job to help them survive on their own. I always tell my clients when we get to the end of this, if you can stand before whoever, the judge if you're court ordered, your probation officer, your family, and you can say, I did this. I learned this coping skill. I learned this strategy. I learned to do this. I learned to regulate these emotions. And you never once give me credit, then I did my job correctly. And I stick with that. I need to teach my clients to not only survive, but thrive through it. And if they can learn to do that on their own, that's not cruelty. That's survival and that's therapeutic. So, in closing, no, you're not wrong for noticing a cultural shift in this talking about hurt feelings all the time. What you're noticing and what you're pushing back against isn't emotional awareness, it's emotional absolutism. It's the ideal that every feeling deserves obedience and that discomfort is inherently harmful. Feelings matter, they're real, they deserve to be acknowledged. They do not deserve to run the entire show. If you want healthier people, healthier therapy, and healthier, stronger recovery, We have to bring that distinction back to our society. If this has resonated, you're not broken. You're noticing something real. And noticing it is the first step in fixing it. Thank you for listening, guys. If you enjoyed this discussion, this little speech that I've written to share, hit me with a subscribe, a like, share it if you'd please. I would really appreciate all that. Just struggling to help other people and other professionals understand their practice a little better. So if you don't care, hit that bell and subscribe, like, and share this with your friends. Thank you very kindly.